The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet and shining under the pale lights. People walked fast, busy with their own lives. No one noticed the quiet figure moving slowly near the edge of the crowd. She was tall, with strange silver eyes and long hair that looked almost too bright under the lamps. Her steps were soft, careful, but her shoulders trembled slightly. Every few moments, she pressed her hand against her side, then quickly pulled it away as if afraid someone might see. The alien girl tried to look normal. She forced herself to walk steady, to keep her face calm, but the truth was different. Hidden under her dark cloak, her wounds were still bleeding. The fabric of her clothes stuck to her skin, warm and wet with blood. She could feel it seeping down slowly, marking her every step. She told herself not to stop, not to collapse. She had survived worse nights. She had run from worse dangers. If she just kept walking, maybe no one would notice. Maybe no one would ask, but someone did notice. A human man stood near a small shop. He had just finished buying some food. His eyes moved over the crowd without much care, but then he saw her. At first, he thought she was just tired, maybe sick, but the way she held herself, the way her arm pressed tightly to her ribs, made him look again. His name was Daniel. He had been through battles of his own, not wars with guns and soldiers, but struggles of life. He knew what pain looked like. And this girl carried pain like a heavy chain. The girl stumbled only for a second. Her knee bent, her shoulder brushed the wall beside her, but she straightened quickly. She looked around, afraid. Her silver eyes met his for just a heartbeat before she looked away. Daniel felt something twist inside him. It was none of his business. She was an alien, a stranger, and clearly wanted no attention, yet he couldn't turn away. He saw the faint line of red across her sleeve, blood soaking through the cloth. She disappeared into a side alley, trying to get away from the crowd. Daniel hesitated, but then followed. The alley was dim, lit only by a broken light. Water dripped from the roofs. The girl leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Her hand slipped from her cloak, and Daniel saw the truth. Her palm was covered in blood. Her side was torn as if something sharp had cut through. She whispered to herself in a language he didn't know. Her voice shook, low and broken. She pressed her wound tighter, trying to stop the flow, but it only slowed a little. Daniel stepped closer. "You're hurt," he said, his voice firm but gentle. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. She froze like a cornered animal. Her lips parted, but no words came. For a moment, only the sound of dripping water filled the space between them. "I'm not here to harm you," Daniel said again, raising his hand slowly. "But you need help, you're bleeding. You can't hide it forever." She shook her head quickly, clutching her side tighter. "No, no one can know." Her voice was faint, rough from exhaustion. Daniel frowned. "If no one knows, you'll die." Her breath came in short gasps. She wanted to argue, to tell him to leave, but her strength was fading. Her legs trembled beneath her. The cloak slipped a little, revealing more red stains. Daniel stepped closer and caught her arm as she nearly collapsed. She tried to pull away, but he held firm. His grip was not harsh, only steady. "Let me help," he whispered. Her eyes burned with fear and something else. Shame? Maybe she had been hunted. Maybe she had been betrayed. But she could not trust easily, and yet the warmth of his hold kept her standing, kept her from falling into the darkness. The alley was silent again, except for their breaths. Daniel felt her body trembling under his hand. He could feel how much she wanted to run, but also how close she was to falling. He didn't push more words on her. Instead, he reached for the cloth in his bag. Tearing it into strips, his hands moved carefully. He pressed it against her wound, trying to slow the bleeding. She gasped, her voice sharp with pain, but she didn't push him away. Daniel looked at her again. "I don't know who you are, or what happened to you," he said softly, "but I can't stand here and watch you die." Her lips parted, as if she wanted to speak, but instead tears filled her strange silver eyes. She quickly blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't alone in her pain. Someone had seen past the cloak, past the silence. Someone had seen the blood and refused to walk away. Daniel tightened the cloth around her wound and steadied her. "We'll figure this out," he promised, though he had no idea what danger she carried with her. Above them, thunder rolled again in the distance. The city lights flickered, as if warning them both, and in that small alley, a fragile bond had begun, one born not from trust but from survival. The night grew colder as the city lights flickered weakly. The alien girl leaned against the wall, her breathing still uneven. Daniel kept his hand firm on the makeshift bandage he had wrapped around her wound. His fingers were warm, steady, while her skin felt cold and damp. For a long moment, neither spoke. The world outside the alley was loud with footsteps, voices, and the hum of machines. But here in the shadows, silence pressed around them. Daniel studied her face. She looked young, maybe not much older than him. Her silver eyes glowed faintly even in the dark. But they were guarded, her jaw was tight, her lips pressed together as if she was holding back words. The cloth on her side darkened quickly. Red spreading across it, Daniel cursed under his breath. "This won't hold for long," he muttered. "You need real treatment." Her head shook sharply. "No hospitals," she whispered. "No doctors. No soldiers." Daniel raised his brows. "Why?" Her eyes darted toward the mouth of the alley as if expecting someone to appear. "If they find me, they'll finish what they started." Her words carried a weight that made Daniel's chest tighten. He didn't know who they were, but he understood danger when he heard it. He tried again. "If you lose too much blood, it won't matter who's chasing you." She stayed silent, her hand pressing weakly over his. Her fingers were cold, trembling. Her cloak slipped slightly, revealing another stain across her shoulder. This wasn't just one wound. Her body carried more. Daniel swallowed hard. He could walk away, pretend he never saw her. But the thought twisted his stomach. That wasn't who he was. "You're not safe out here," he said, voice firm. "If you won't go to them, then you're coming with me." Her eyes widened, shock flashing across her face. "With you?" "No, humans don't." She trailed off, words breaking apart. "Humans don't what?" he asked gently. She looked away, shame flickering in her expression. "They don't help us. They look at us like dirt. Or like tools." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had heard stories of how some treated alien refugees. "Cold, cruel, or worse, maybe they do," he admitted. "But I'm not them." Her gaze returned to him slowly, searching his face as if trying to find a lie. But Daniel's eyes were steady, and there was no mockery in them. Another wave of pain hit her. Her knees buckled slightly. Daniel moved quickly, catching her before she could fall, his arms wrapped around her, pulling her against his chest. Her body was so light, too light for someone her size. He felt the weakness in her frame, the exhaustion that went deeper than her wounds. She struggled at first, trying to push away, but her strength failed. Her head rested against his shoulder, and her blood stained his shirt. Daniel didn't care. "Easy," he murmured. "I've got you." Her eyes fluttered, half closed, her breath shallow, but she whispered again. Why are you doing this?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He didn't have a simple reason. He just knew that walking away wasn't an option. "Because no one else will," he finally said. He lifted her carefully, adjusting her weight in his arms. She gasped, pain ripping through her side. But she didn't cry out loud. Her pride held her silent. The alley stretched long and dark. Daniel carried her slowly, his steps careful. He could feel her warmth mixing with the chill of the night. His shirt clung to his skin where her blood soaked through. Every few steps her eyes opened slightly, watching him. Almost as if she expected him to drop her, to abandon her halfway, but he didn't. Daniel remembered the look in her eyes when she first saw him. The look of someone used to hiding. Used to silence, used to pain, and he hated it. No one deserved to live like that. As they reached the edge of the street, the neon lights painted them in pale blue and red. A few people glanced their way but quickly looked aside. No one wanted to get involved, the girl noticed. Her lips curved in the smallest bitter smile. "See, no one cares," she whispered. Daniel tightened his hold on her. "I do," he said, simple and firm. Her silver eyes lingered on him again, softer now but still filled with doubt. They turned into a quieter road, heading toward Daniel's small home at the edge of the district. The path was long and she faded in and out of consciousness. Each time her head dropped against his chest, Daniel whispered to her. Words meant more for her heart than her ears. "Stay with me. Just a little longer. You're safe now." But safety was a fragile thing. Shadows moved in the corners of the streets and Daniel felt eyes watching. Someone had noticed the blood-stained cloth. Someone had noticed the alien girl in his arms. The night was not over and danger was not far. Daniel's arms ached as he carried her further into the quiet district. But he didn't stop. The alien girl was lighter than she looked, yet every step made the weight of her condition heavier in his mind. The cloth on her wound was soaked through, leaving a faint trail of red behind them. Her head rested against his chest, her breath shallow. Sometimes her lips moved as if whispering words in her own tongue. Words Daniel could not understand. He only caught fragments, sounds full of fear, sometimes sorrow. When they finally reached a narrow passage between two old brick buildings, Daniel stopped. The street was empty here. Shadows stretched long. A single flickering lamp buzzed above, casting light that came and went like a heartbeat. This should be quiet enough, he muttered, lowering her gently onto a crate near the wall. The girl stirred, her silver eyes opening slowly. She looked around, alarm flashing across her face. Where are we? A corner away from eyes, Daniel said, crouching in front of her. You needed rest, and I needed to check your wounds. She tried to sit straighter, pulling her cloak tighter, but the effort made her wince. Pain rippled across her face, sharp and raw. You shouldn't have followed me, she whispered, her voice trembling. They'll come for me. And you'll be caught too, Daniel frowned. Who's they? Hunters, soldiers. Her lips pressed shut, refusing to answer. Her eyes darted to the mouth of the alley again, as though shadows themselves might come alive. Daniel leaned closer, his voice low, steady. If you don't tell me, I can't protect you. Her gaze met his, cold at first, then softening. She saw no cruelty in him, no mockery, his hands, though rough and stained with her blood, were careful, steady. She swallowed hard. But the words remained stuck in her throat. Daniel sighed, pulling out the rest of the cloth from his bag. Fine. Then let me at least keep you alive long enough to explain. He unwrapped the first bandage, the bloodied strip clinging to her side. She gasped sharply, clutching at the crate. Her fingers left faint scratches in the wood. Daniel muttered quietly, Sorry, but it has to be done. His hands worked quickly, but with care he tore new strips, pressing them against her wounds. Her eyes closed tight, her body shivered. But she didn't cry out, not once. Her silence was louder than any scream. Daniel wondered what kind of life had taught her to bear pain without a sound. When he tied the cloth firm, she let out a slow, shaky breath. Her skin glistened with sweat, strands of her pale hair sticking to her cheeks. For a while, they sat in silence. The only sounds were the buzzing lamp and their uneven breathing. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft. Why are you doing this? Daniel paused, looking at her. I already told you, he said. Because no one else would. Her silver eyes studied him. Searching. You risk yourself for nothing. For someone you don't know, for someone not even of your kind. Daniel gave a faint smile. Tired but real. Pain doesn't care about kind. It looks the same on everyone. Her lips parted, but no reply came. She looked down, her cloak slipping a little, her arms wrapped around herself, not just for warmth, but as if to keep her secrets locked inside. Daniel leaned back, resting against the opposite wall. He didn't press her for answers, not yet. He knew trust was not given. Only earned. Minutes passed, maybe longer. The night outside grew deeper. The hum of the city faded. The silent corner they had chosen felt like another world, cut off from everything else, but peace was fragile. Daniel noticed at first the faint sound of boots against stone. Echoing faintly, too steady, too heavy to be normal footsteps. He tensed, his eyes narrowing. The girl heard it too. Her body stiffened, her breath caught. Fear flooded her face in an instant. She grabbed Daniel's wrist, her grip weak but urgent. They're here, she whispered, voice shaking. Daniel's heart pounded. Who? She shook her head quickly. No time. Her eyes darted toward the deeper shadows of the alley. We must hide. Daniel scanned the space. His small corner wasn't enough cover. The light above flickered again. Shadows stretched deeper. He pulled her gently, helping her stand despite her weakness. Her knees wobbled, but she forced herself up, biting back a cry. Daniel wrapped an arm around her waist, half lifting her, guiding her deeper into the alley where broken crates and old metal sheets leaned against the wall. The footsteps grew louder, closer. The girl pressed against him, trembling. Her hand clutched at his shirt. Please, don't let them find me, she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. His eyes scanned the entrance. His heart told him one truth, whatever she was running from. It was real, dangerous, and now it was near. In the silence, broken only by their breathing, Daniel made a choice. He pulled her close, holding her tightly, whispering low, I won't let them take you. Her silver eyes widened, tears threatening. For the first time, she believed him. If only for this moment, the footsteps stopped. A shadow fell at the mouth of the alley. The silent corner was no longer safe. The shadow at the mouth of the alley did not move at first. It stood there like a silent wall watching. The girl pressed tighter against Daniel, her silver eyes wide with terror. Her body shook so badly he could feel every tremor. Daniel's breath slowed. His instincts screamed at him to protect. His hand moved gently over her shoulder, steadying her as he whispered, "Stay calm. Don't make a sound." The shadow shifted. Heavy boots scraped against stone. A faint red glow flickered near the ground, equipment, maybe a scanner, then, as quickly as it appeared, the figure turned away. The sound of footsteps faded, leaving only silence again. The girl sagged against him, her knees weak. A broken sob escaped her lips before she bit it back. Daniel caught her, lowering her carefully onto the crate again. "They were looking for you," he said softly, "weren't they?" She did not answer. Her fingers clutched the edge of her cloak so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Daniel crouched in front of her, his eyes steady. "You can't keep running without telling me what's chasing you. If I'm risking myself for you, then I deserve to know." Her head shook quickly. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand," Daniel replied firmly. "I can't help you in the dark." Her silver eyes lifted to him, shimmering with pain. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with a trembling breath, the words spilled out. "They're hunters," she whispered, voice breaking. "Paid soldiers from the syndicate. They marked me when I refused to obey. They kill those who resist." "But I escaped," Daniel frowned. "Why were they after you? What did you refuse?" Her throat tightened. She looked down, ashamed. "They wanted me to be a weapon," she said bitterly. "To use my bloodline, my strength, to fight their wars. I would rather die than serve them." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He studied her closely, her face pale, her body weak, but her spirit burning even through fear. "So you ran," he said, "and they chased you." Her lips pressed together. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "They killed others like me, my sisters, my kin. They made us fight each other for their amusement. I survived because I hid, but every night, I still hear their screams." Her words cracked open something heavy inside the alley. For the first time, Daniel saw not just wounds on her body, but scars buried deep in her soul. He lowered his voice, gentler now. "And tonight?" "They found me," she whispered. "I fought back. I cut one of them before I escaped. But they will not stop. They will follow the blood trail. They will follow me until I am gone." Tears glistened at the edge of her eyes. She blinked them away quickly, trying to stay strong. Daniel sat back, his fists tightening. He had seen cruelty in human wars. He had seen greed destroy lives, but to take someone and turn them into a weapon, it boiled his blood. "You're not theirs," he said firmly. "You're free. You're with me now." She shook her head. "No one can be free from them." Daniel leaned forward, his voice low but unyielding. "Then I'll fight them with you." Her eyes widened, disbelief flickering across her pale face. "Why? You don't even know me. Why risk your life?" Daniel gave a faint smile, weary but honest. "Because I know what it feels like to be cornered, to have no one stand beside you. And I swore long ago I wouldn't let anyone else suffer like that if I could help." Her lips parted, but no words came. She stared at him, searching again for a lie, but his eyes only held truth, steady and unshaken for the first time. Her defenses cracked. A single tear slid down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, ashamed, but Daniel had already seen. "You don't have to hide anymore," he whispered. The silence that followed was heavy but different now. Not just fear, but something fragile growing between them. The girl leaned back against the wall, her strength fading again. "If they come, they'll kill you too," Daniel shrugged lightly, though his jaw was tight. "Then let them try." Her eyes softened, but fear still lingered. "You don't know them. They have weapons, machines, trackers." "Then we'll be smarter," Daniel interrupted. "We'll use shadows. Streets, anything we can. They don't know me. But I know this city." She blinked slowly. As if weighing his words, finally she whispered, "You're either brave or foolish." Daniel gave a faint grin. "Maybe both." The lamp above flickered again, throwing them in and out of light. Each flash painted her face in silver and red. Fragile yet unbroken, for the first time, she whispered her name. "Liara," Daniel nodded, repeating it softly. "Liara." It felt like a vow in the silence of the alley. But even as the bond between them deepened, Daniel knew danger was close. The hunters would return stronger, more prepared. And when they did, he would be standing in their way. For now, though, He pulled the cloak tighter around her trembling form, whispering gently, "Rest while you can tomorrow. We fight." The night felt heavier. The city's neon glow no longer seemed alive, but cold, like the eyes of hunters searching in the dark. Daniel sat near the wall, his back straight, his eyes never leaving the alley's entrance. Beside him, Liara rested with her cloak pulled tight. Her breathing was uneven, but calmer than before. Daniel's mind ran fast. He had heard stories of syndicates, whispers of groups who bought and sold lives across worlds, but now those stories stood in flesh and blood before him. He had not chosen this fight, but it had chosen him the moment he saw the blood on her sleeve. Liara stirred, her silver eyes opening slowly. "You didn't leave," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. Daniel looked at her, his tone steady. "Told you I wouldn't. Someone has to stand between you and them." Her lips curved faintly. Not quite a smile. "You don't know what they'll bring." Before Daniel could answer, a sound cut through the silence, a low hum, metallic, unnatural. His eyes snapped to the alley's mouth. Two figures appeared, dark armor glinting faintly under the broken street lamp. Red scanners swept across the ground, pausing on the faint trail of blood Liara had left behind earlier. Her body stiffened instantly, fear locking her limbs. She pressed against the wall, whispering, "They've found us." Daniel placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Then we move now." He pulled her up carefully, wrapping an arm around her waist. Her legs trembled but managed to hold together. They slipped deeper into the alley's shadows. The hunters entered, their voices cold and mechanical beneath their helmets. One of them raised a device that beeped steadily, pointing toward the trail. "They're tracking me," Liara breathed. Panic rising, Daniel cursed under his breath. His eyes darted around, the crates, the rusted pipes, the maze of connected alleys beyond. "Then we give them a trail they don't want," he muttered. He guided her quickly toward a side path. Their footsteps were quiet, but the hunters followed, scanners flashing red with each drop of blood left behind. Liara's strength faltered. Daniel caught her again, lifting her without hesitation. Her head rested against his shoulder, her whisper faint. "You should go. Leave me, save yourself." Daniel's jaw tightened. Not happening. He moved faster, his boots splashing through shallow puddles. He ducked under low beams, turned sharp corners. Anything to put distance between them and the hunters. But the sound of pursuit grew louder. From behind, a harsh voice echoed through the dark. "Surrender the fugitive, human, and you may live." Daniel didn't slow. "Guess they don't know me very well," he muttered. Liara's weak laugh broke from her throat, quickly fading into another wince of pain. They reached a broken stairway leading up to the roof of an abandoned warehouse. Daniel climbed fast, keeping Liara close to his chest at the top. The city spread below them, lights, smoke, endless streets, and the shadows of men who hunted without mercy. Daniel crouched behind a rusted vent. Setting Liara down carefully, she leaned against the metal, her breath shallow but steady. Her silver eyes met his. "You could have left. You should have left." Daniel shook his head, his voice calm but fierce. "And let them break you?" "No, Liara, not while I'm here." Her lips trembled, tears threatening again. She looked away quickly, hiding them. But her whisper carried, "No one has ever said that to me." The roof groaned under heavy boots. The hunters were climbing. Their scanners glowed red through the smoke. Daniel's fists clenched. He looked around, broken pipes, loose bricks, and steel rods scattered near the edges. Crude weapons at best, but weapons nonetheless. He picked up a steel rod, its weight solid in his hand. He turned to Liara. "Stay low. Stay hidden." Her hand shot out, gripping his arm weakly. "They'll kill you." Daniel looked at her with steady eyes. "Maybe, but I'm not letting them touch you." Before she could argue, the hunters appeared on the roof. Their armor gleamed, their visors glowing red like hungry eyes. One raised a rifle, pointing directly at Daniel. "Step aside," the hunter ordered. "The alien belongs to us." Daniel stood tall, rod in hand. "She doesn't belong to anyone." The hunter's visor tilted slightly, as if amused. "You'll die for her?" Daniel smirked faintly. "Guess we'll find out." The first hunter moved forward, heavy steps shaking the rusted metal beneath. Daniel waited, his muscles tense. Then, with a sudden burst, he swung the steel rod, striking the rifle aside. The weapon clattered across the roof. Sparks flying, the second hunter lunged, but Daniel ducked, grabbing a loose brick and smashing it into the figure's side. The armor cracked, the hunter staggered. Liara watched, her body trembling. She wanted to rise to help, but her wounds held her down. Her silver eyes filled with fear and something else. Something like hope. The fight was brutal. Daniel had no armor, no training against machines like these. But his determination was iron. His strikes were wild yet strong, fueled by the promise he had made. One hunter slammed him against the vent, pain shooting through his back. Daniel gritted his teeth, forcing his body to move. He shoved the steel rod upward, jamming it beneath the hunter's helmet. Sparks burst as the figure fell. The second hunter raised a blade, red light pulsing along its edge. Daniel braced, ready for the strike, but before the blade could fall, a sharp sound cut through the night. Liara, using the last of her strength, had thrown a shard of metal into the hunter's leg. The figure staggered, and Daniel seized the moment, driving his rod into the hunter's chest. The roof fell silent, the hunters lying still. Daniel stood there, chest heaving, sweat and blood covering him. He turned quickly back to Liara. She was slumped against the vent, her silver eyes half closed. But a faint smile touched her lips. "You fought them," she whispered, her voice weak but alive. Daniel dropped the rod and crouched beside her. "We fought them," he corrected, his voice gentle. "Together." Liara's eyes closed slowly, exhaustion pulling her under. But her last whisper carried a weight stronger than any weapon. "Maybe. I can trust you." Daniel's hand brushed against her trembling one, gripping it firmly. "You can," he said. Though his own body screamed with pain, above them the city lights flickered, and in the distance more shadows stirred. The danger wasn't over. But tonight, for the first time, Liara was not alone. The roof smelled of smoke and metal. Sparks still glowed faintly from the hunter's broken armor. Daniel leaned against the rusted vent, his chest heaving, his arms shook with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed sharp, scanning the shadows. Liara sat weakly beside him, her cloak torn, her silver eyes half-lidded but awake. She whispered, "You should not have fought them." "They will send more, stronger ones." Daniel wiped the blood from his brow. "Then we'll fight more until they learn we're not easy prey." She gave a faint, almost bitter laugh. "We? You mean you?" Daniel turned to her, his voice firm. "No, I mean us, you and me." "Together?" Her eyes searched his face, looking for mockery. But there was none, only determination. Steady and unshaken for the first time in years, she felt the strange warmth of someone who stood not behind her, not against her, but beside her, still. Fear gnawed at her. "You don't understand what they are. They have ships, machines, networks that span across cities. They own people and power. No one resists them and survives." Daniel's jaw tightened. Maybe no one tried hard enough. She blinked at him, stunned by his stubborn courage. Part of her wanted to argue, to push him away. But another part, a small, fragile part, wanted to believe him. Suddenly the night air trembled. A faint hum echoed through the sky. Daniel's head snapped upward. His stomach dropped when he saw it. A drone, its red eye scanning across the rooftops. "They're tracking again," Liara gasped, panic flooding her weak body. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Then we move now." He pulled her up, supporting her weight with his arm around her waist. Together they moved down the broken stairway. Their footsteps echoed against the stone. They reached the street where shadows stretched long and narrow. Daniel guided her into the maze of alleys. Weaving through corners, ducking under broken beams, he knew the city better than they did. This was his home, his battleground. Liara leaned heavily against him, her voice weak but urgent. "You should leave me here, I'll slow you down." "They'll catch us both," Daniel stopped. Turning to her, his grip on her tightened. "I told you before, I don't leave people behind. Especially not you." Her lips trembled, her silver eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. She whispered, "Why do you care so much?" Daniel looked at her, his voice soft but steady. "Because I've been where you are, I know what it's like to bleed and think no one will come. I swore I wouldn't let anyone feel that again." The word struck her deeper than any blade. She had lived in a world where trust was a weapon used against the weak, where kindness was a trap. Yet here was this human holding her up, refusing to abandon her before she could speak. A metallic crash echoed behind them. Daniel turned sharply. 3 more hunters dropped into the alley, their visors glowing red, their weapons humming with power. Liara's breath hitched. "More." Daniel's grip on her tightened. His eyes scanned the surroundings. Broken pipes, stacks of crates, shadows deep enough to vanish in. He whispered quickly, "Listen, if we fight, We fight together, I'll strike, you distract, even weak. You're stronger than you think. Her silver eyes widened. Together? Daniel nodded once, firm. Together, the hunters advanced, one raising a rifle. Another activated a blade that hissed with energy. The third raised a scanner, its red light sweeping across them. Daniel shoved Liara gently behind a stack of crates. Stay low until the moment comes, he whispered. Then he stepped forward, steel rod still clutched in his hand from the roof fight. Human, one hunter's voice growled through the helmet. Stand down, this is not your fight. Daniel smirked faintly, though sweat dripped from his brow. You're right, it's not my fight, but I made it mine, he charged. Swinging the rod with full force, the first hunter blocked, sparks flying as metal struck armor. Daniel gritted his teeth, twisting and slamming the rod again into the helmet. The second hunter rushed him, blade cutting through the air, but Liara moved. Summoning the last of her strength, she grabbed a loose pipe and slammed it against the hunter's leg. The strike wasn't strong, but enough to throw him off balance. Daniel seized the chance, driving his rod into the hunter's chest. Knocking him back against the wall, sparks erupted as the armor cracked. The third hunter aimed the rifle, red energy charging at the barrel. Daniel's eyes widened, but before the shot fired, Liara shoved the broken pipe into the scanner, sparks bursting. The weapon misfired. Blasting into the ground instead, Daniel lunged forward, slamming the steel rod down on the rifle, breaking it in half. The hunter staggered. Daniel kicked him hard, sending him crashing into the others. Silence followed, broken only by Daniel's heavy breathing. He turned back to Liara. She was on her knees, pale and trembling, but her eyes glowed with something new, not just fear but fire. You fought with me, Daniel said, his chest rising and falling. She nodded weakly, her voice barely more than a whisper. You told me. Together. Daniel crouched beside her, lifting her into his arms again. His voice was soft but fierce. And we will stay together. No matter how many come. Liara's head rested against his chest, her silver eyes closing, but before she drifted into sleep, her whisper carried. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe not all humans are cruel. Daniel held her close, his steps firm as he carried her through the dark streets. Above them, drones hummed and shadows moved. The hunters would not stop. The war for her freedom had only begun. But for the first time, Liara was no longer alone, and Daniel was no longer fighting just for himself, but for her too. The night stretched long. The city was quiet again, but Daniel knew silence was dangerous. It meant the hunters were regrouping, waiting, planning their next strike. He carried Liara through empty streets, her blood staining his shirt, her breath faint but steady. His home was not much, a small, old apartment at the edge of the district. The walls were cracked, the lights dim, but it was hidden, safe enough for now. Daniel pushed the door open with his shoulder and laid her carefully on his worn-out couch. Liara's eyes fluttered open weakly. This is your place? She whispered. Daniel gave a tired smile. Not much to look at, but it'll keep you alive. She looked around. The faint traces of a human life. Books stacked on the floor, a faded jacket hanging near the door. A small photograph of a younger Daniel with two older figures, maybe his parents. It felt strange, after years of cages and shadows, to be in a place that was normal. Daniel knelt beside her, checking the bandages. You've lost too much blood. I'll need to stitch this, hold on for me. Liara tensed, fear flickering across her silver eyes, but she nodded, trusting him now. His hands worked steadily, sewing the wound with rough but careful precision. She clenched her teeth, gripping the couch, her body trembling with every pull of the thread, but she didn't cry out. When he finished, Daniel leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead. It's not perfect, but it'll hold. Liara looked at him, her voice soft. You risk so much. For me, Daniel met her gaze. I told you. I don't walk away, her lips curved faintly. Foolish human, she whispered. But there was no bitterness in her tone now. Only warmth, fragile but real. Hours passed. Daniel sat near her, watching as she drifted in and out of sleep. Every time she stirred, his hand was there, steadying her, reminding her she wasn't alone. But as dawn approached, Liara's body grew weaker. The blood loss, the exhaustion, the fear, it all pressed down on her. Her breath became shallow, her skin pale. Daniel's chest tightened with dread. No, stay with me, he whispered urgently, gripping her hand. You fought too hard to give up now. Her silver eyes opened slightly, her voice faint. Don't want to die. Not here, not now. Daniel's grip tightened, his voice fierce. Then don't, not while I'm here. I'll fight death itself if I have to. Tears filled her eyes, rolling down her cheeks at last. She had hidden them for so long, but now they fell freely. She whispered, "All my life I was told I was nothing but a weapon, that no one would ever care if I lived or died, and yet, here you are." Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady. "You're not a weapon, Liara. You're more than they ever saw, and you're not alone anymore." Her hand trembled in his, but she clutched it tighter as if afraid it might vanish. Outside, the faint hum of drones echoed again. Daniel stiffened. He looked toward the window, shadows moving in the distance. The hunters hadn't given up, they would come again. Liara saw his expression, her breath quickening. "They'll keep chasing me, you can't fight them all." "You'll die if you stay," Daniel shook his head. "Maybe I can't fight them all, but I can fight enough to keep you safe." She looked at him, her silver eyes glistening. "Why? Why me?" Daniel gave a faint smile, tired but unshaken. "Because when I saw you hiding your wounds, bleeding in silence, I saw myself. I know what it feels like to be broken and ignored. I won't let you go through that alone." Her heart ached with emotions she had buried for years. Her lips trembled, and for the first time, she whispered not with fear but with hope. "Daniel." The sound of her voice saying his name filled him with strength he didn't know he had. He leaned closer, resting his forehead gently against hers. "You're safe with me," he whispered. Her tears slipped down freely now, but she didn't look away. For the first time in her life, she believed it. The hum outside grew louder. The hunters were near, but for a brief, fragile moment. The world faded. There was no pain, no fear, only the warmth of his arms as he pulled her close. Liara rested against his chest, whispering one last time before sleep claimed her. "As long as you hold me, I'm not afraid." Daniel wrapped his arms around her tightly, his voice low but steady. "Then I'll never let go." The sun rose slowly, casting golden light into the broken room. Shadows still lingered outside. Danger still waited, but inside, in that fragile embrace, something unbreakable had begun. Not just survival, but trust. Not just fear, but hope, and in that hope, the hunted alien girl and the stubborn human stood ready for whatever came next. Together,